December 2nd, 1984. Bhopal, India. A city slept, oblivious to the nightmare about to unfold. At the heart of the city, a monster stirred within the Union Carbide pesticide plant. A poisonous cloud escaped, a silent, invisible killer. It crept through the streets, seeping into homes, into lungs. Thousands woke to burning eyes, choking throats. Panic seized the city. A desperate scramble for life began, a frantic flight from the unseen enemy. The air hung heavy, thick with the stench of death. Hospitals overflowed, ill-equipped to handle the scale of the disaster. Mothers wept, clutching lifeless children. The night echoed with the groans of the dying. This was not an accident. This was a massacre. The seeds of the Bhopal tragedy were sown long before that fateful night. Union Carbide, an American corporation, had set up a pesticide plant in the heart of Bhopal, a densely populated city. Cost-cutting measures became the norm. Safety standards were ignored. Indian lives were cheap. Workers, often illiterate, were unaware of the dangers they handled daily. Warnings were ignored, alarms silenced. The company's pursuit of profit blinded it to the potential human cost. The Indian government, eager for foreign investment, turned a blind eye to the ticking time bomb in its backyard. Greed and neglect had created a perfect storm. Dawn broke on a city transformed. The streets were littered with bodies, humans and animals alike. The living envied the dead. The pungent smell of chemicals lingered in the air, a constant reminder of the horror. Hospitals, ill-equipped for a disaster of this magnitude, struggled to cope. The world watched in horror as the true scale of the disaster unfolded. The official death toll stood at thousands, but the actual number remains unknown, with many dying in the years that followed. The tragedy exposed the vulnerability of developing nations, the callous disregard of corporations, and the human cost of unchecked greed. A generation scarred. The nightmare of that December night continues to cast a long shadow over Bhopal. Survivors, their bodies ravaged by the toxic gas, grapple with chronic illnesses, respiratory problems, cancer, birth defects, a legacy of that fateful night. Children born years later bear the brunt of their parents' exposure. The psychological scars run deep. Survivors battle trauma, depression, and the constant fear of their children's future. They are trapped in a cycle of poverty and ill health, denied basic healthcare and justice. Justice, a distant dream. The fight for justice has been long and arduous. Union Carbide, after initial denials, admitted partial responsibility. However, the compensation offered was a pittance, a cruel joke compared to the suffering endured. Legal battles dragged on for decades, mired in technicalities and jurisdictional issues. The Indian government, initially vocal in its condemnation, has been accused of shielding the corporation from legal repercussions. The victims of Bhopal continue to wait for justice, their hopes dwindling with each passing year. Scars on humanity. The Bhopal gas tragedy is a stark reminder of the human cost of unchecked industrialization. It is a cautionary tale of corporate greed, government apathy, and the vulnerability of developing nations. The scars of that night remain etched not just on the faces of the survivors, but on the conscience of humanity. Bhopal stands as a testament to the human spirit's resilience, but also to its capacity for immense suffering. It is a call for accountability, for stricter regulations, and for a world where profit never trumps human life. The fight for justice continues. The world must listen.